In this video, we're going to repot our pothos to trail down or climb up. Stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Christian and I love plants. You obviously love them as well too because you clicked on this video. But if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button and follow me on Instagram for daily plant vlogs. So in my last video, I showed you guys how to care and propagate pothos from cuttings. And in today's video, what we're gonna do is we're actually going to repot them because they need to be repotted badly. A few of these guys are root bound. And yeah, so I got 4 different kinds here. I got my neon pothos, my perling jade, my golden pothos, and my marble queen here. And I'm actually gonna allow a couple of them to continue to trail down while the rest I think I wanna train to climb up, put a moss pole in, because that's one thing about pothos is, you know, they look beautiful trailing down, you know, top of a bookshelf, or they look beautiful climbing up on a moss pole as a floor plant, which is what we're gonna do with the golden pothos. So why do you need to repot your pothos, or any plant for that matter? Obviously plants not only grow from the top, but they also grow from the bottom with the roots, and eventually they're going to outgrow the container they're in or the pot that they're in. And if you wanted them to obviously continue to grow bigger, you know, stronger and healthier, you definitely do need to repot them. So when should you repot your pothos? Well, it depends on the current size they're in right now, but mine is in a 6-inch container, and pothos grow really fast, and I seem to always have to repot this guy at least once a year or every year. Previously they were in a 4-inch container and they only lasted for a year there, and I'm gonna move them up this time to an 8-inch container, and hopefully they'll last a little bit longer, but we'll see how they thrive. You know, I do love my plants to grow big and long, especially when it comes to trailing plants like a pothos. They're beautiful, and especially when they climb up as well too. That's how you can actually promote their leaves to get a little bit bigger. But typically you want to repot during the beginning of the growing season, and that's because it'll be easier for them to get over the shock of repotting. So obviously the sun is out a little longer, it's a little bit warmer, and they'll thrive a little bit better. And at least by the time fall comes around, you know, your plant has already settled in its current home and current container, and it'll continue to thrive and be healthy during the, you know, the next winter season. But yeah, how can you tell if your plant needs to be repotted? Well, there's a few telltale signs. I noticed that with mine, I have mine in plastic containers, and typically when I go and re-water these guys, I can actually see some roots sticking out, like you guys see right here with the golden pothos and in the neon pothos as well. And so that's how I know that the guys need to be repotted, as well as they needed to be watered a lot more frequently than they were when they were a little bit smaller and younger. So that tells me that, you know, obviously the plant is a lot bigger and it's draining a lot of the water quicker because there probably isn't enough soil to you know, retain the moisture in there. So definitely these guys need to be repotted, because literally I feel like I water this guy every 5 days instead of like the usual every 10 days. Yeah, so those are signs. And again, if you don't have them in plastic containers and you have them in a pot, you know what you can do is check to see if it's root bound by just simply, you know, moving a bit of the soil at the top and seeing if there's some roots sticking out. Or what you can do is just, you know, try and take it out of the pot and see if the roots are starting to wrap around. Like you see here in the golden pothos, you can see that this guy's a bit root bound. Not only was his roots showing through the container, the plastic container, but you can see it starting to circle around here. So definitely root bound as well. And you guys don't want the roots to be suffocating that much, even though they'll still do okay. Eventually they're gonna struggle, and they're not gonna, you know, be healthy, and they're gonna stop growing as well too. So you want to make sure that you free up those roots a bit. All right guys, so let's start our repotting here. So the soil mix we're gonna use is 50% cacti soil and 50% regular potting mix, and then a handful of perlite for extra drainage. This is my go-to soil mix when it comes to most of my plants. Definitely the pothos, they seem to thrive really well with this kind of mix. So we're going to start with the neon pothos. We're gonna remove him from the plastic container, remove a lot of the soil that's in there, and then try and free up a lot of these roots gently. So let's do that right now. All right guys, so here is the neon pothos, and as mentioned, you can see some of the roots already starting to come through the container he's in. So I'm just going to gently squeeze this guy to help loosen the soil a bit, and you know, then kind of just tap this guy out. So this guy should easily come out. Yeah, look at that. So this one isn't as bad. as the, but you can kind of start to see that the roots are starting to kind of go in circles. That's one thing why I like using plastic containers. It's so much just easier for me to check to see how the roots are doing, as well as, you know, easier for me to water and make sure that the water drains through. But again, it's really preference for you guys. You can have these guys planted in the decorative pot just as long as you have well drainage in there. But yeah, so I'm just gonna, you know, gently squeeze this guy. This is great. The soil, you know, is pretty loose right now, so this guy's gonna gently come out pretty good. So the other thing too when it comes to repotting is don't repot when your plant is like freshly watered. You want to make sure that the soil is dry, because it's going to be a struggle to loosen up the wet soil from the roots, and you're most likely going to damage the roots. So always make sure that when you're repotting is that it's dry and not wet. So let's go ahead and finish this off. All right, guys, so here is our neon pothos. It is free from a lot of the soil that it was in, and these roots look really good. Again, you want to be gentle with these guys, because if you remember my propagation video of pothos, which by the way, if you haven't checked out, I'll provide a link here. Definitely check it out. But you know where the roots come out is from those little nodes, and they then obviously grow to this bunch right now. So you can kind of see this was still a cutting as well. And you can see that's where the node was, and that's where all the roots grow. So it's not like these guys have strong, you know, from the cutting that that you cut them in, that's where the roots grew. It's not like that. So you gotta be very careful with these guys to make sure you don't detach the root system from that node. So here's our pot with the soil mix we have. So this is the 8-inch that I was referring to. I want this guy to face forward again when it trails, so that way I can continue to put this in the bookshelf. But we're just going to sit him in here. Let's see if you guys can see here. Face it the other way around. And yeah, so then what I want to do, now that it's sitting right there in the height I want it to sit, I'm then going to kind of just top it up with soil here. So hold this guy up. I'm just gonna make a bit more room. All right, and then I'm just going to see if I can just alrighty. I think that's the kind of height I want it to be. So I'm just gonna fill this guy up with more of my soil mix, and do it on this side as well. I love the neon pothos. It's definitely one of my favorite pothos. I think it is my favorite one right now, to be quite honest. I don't know, lately I've been really into like green foliage, like green on green or green and yellow. I don't know, like I just got myself a Ficus altissima, and it's a beauty. I'll show you guys that in the next houseplant haul video. I went to a nursery tour earlier today, so I'll actually post that as well too in the next video, so you guys can see that nursery. It was pretty cool. I've never been to it, and honestly, man, nurseries are like heaven for me. I don't know about you guys, but they definitely are. So really like, but yeah, so this guy looks good. So now what we want to do is obviously you know, water this guy, and when you water this guy you want to make sure that the water drains through thoroughly. So that's why I do like to use these containers, but I'm gonna do that after we repot the rest of the guys here. But don't worry if your plant looks, after repotting, not as perky as it was. I mean, again, they're a little bit in shock by obviously removing them from their home and then trying to place them into a new home as well too. So it's kind of to be expected, but this guy should do well. Again, it's a nice sunny day, and you know, we're hitting spring here, so that's the reason why you should always repot too in the beginning of the season. So this one is done. There you go. And we're gonna move on to the Pearling Jade, and let's go ahead and do that one right. All right, guys, so here is a Pearling Jade. This was actually my first Pothos, and when I first got this I thought it was the Marble Queen, but it's definitely Pearl and Jade, but others have called this as well as the Manjula. So again, just loosen up the soil. This one actually, I didn't see the roots sticking out through the container here, but you can see right now that it looks like it's, you know, it's pretty, it's okay, it's not bad, but you can kind of see some of the roots circling around there as well. So what we're gonna do here, we're just gonna gently tap a lot of the soil out, not damaging the roots, because again, I find that the roots of a Pothos is quite fragile, especially again because they literally all came out of that tiny node, right? So you want to be careful, you know, not detaching it from there. But this is pretty cool that the soil is easily coming off right now, and yeah, there we go, pretty much. Alright guys, so here is the Pearl and Jade. It's now free from the oiled soil, and what we want to do is actually, we're going to repot this guy, obviously the new 8-inch container, which is right here, but we're then also going to add this baby guy right here. This is actually a cutting from this guy that I propagated back last summer, and obviously rooted in water, and now it's trailing beautifully. So this originally had like, you know, just 4 leaves that I planted back in soil, and now I'm gonna add it at the top so that way it has more of a full top while it continues to trail down. So I'm just gonna loosen this guy up from its old container. Again, this was in a 4-inch pot as well, but you can see how this guy's actually root bound. See, this is a 4-inch container, and you can see how the roots are already circling right there. So yeah, so this is a good thing that we're actually going to give this guy a bit more room so it can continue to trail beautifully. But that's one thing about Pothos, is they're so easy to care for, easy to propagate, and again, you know, I did just do a video of that. So for those of you guys looking for how to obviously care and propagate your Pothos, definitely check that out. Okay, so here's our container. I want this guy to trail on one side because I still want these guys to be up on the bookshelf, which have, you know, the other side is going to be against the wall. So I want to make sure that these guys are going to face a certain way. Look at this guy, how this is a bit bare, and then this guy is growing. I think what I want to do, I might have to cut this guy and like root this guy in water, because yeah, I'm trying to see how this guy's working out. Okay, well, let's go plant this guy first, and then we'll figure out what to do with that one. So face, that's the front, because I want this guy to add this part, which is the baby one. I'm going to add this one to the back of it as well, so that way this is kind of where the crown will be, and that's where it'll trail. But I want the trails to kind of face the same way, so that way when this guy starts trailing long, it's all going to trail on one side, because I do love the Pothos when they are pretty much on a bookshelf and they're just looking really, really nice. All right. Oh yeah, this looks good. Okay, I'm excited about this one. Okay, so there's our placing, and then we're just gonna top this up with our soil mix here. So let's go ahead and do that. Man, I am loving this guy. Ta-da! Look how pretty this one is. Oh man, I am excited for this. So this guy right here is just a long vine. It looks like I had this originally wrapped around at the top because it had all these nodes, and technically you can't point these guys directly into the soil and it should root. Maybe I'll do that instead of cutting it. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. I'll just wrap this vine around and then cover it in soil, and then stick this guy up in here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that works. You know what, this actually works. Instead of me cutting it and trying to get this guy to root in water, we'll just do it this way. That way. There you guys have it. So now the top here it's facing this way to trail as well. So as these guys grow, it'll start trailing a bit more. But yeah, so now let's do the golden Pothos, which we're gonna train to climb up by using a moss bowl. Alright guys, so here's our golden Pothos. I already did remove the soil, and you can see all these roots. So yeah, when I was removing the soil, you can clearly see that this guy was pretty root bound. The roots were starting to obviously circle there, as well as go through the container. But what we're gonna do is actually we're going to put this guy, instead of it in a 8-inch container, we're actually gonna use a 10-inch container. And the reason being is because I want to train this guy to climb up. So we're actually gonna use a moss pole here that I got from Amazon. I'll provide a a link in the description below if you're looking for one. But these guys are great. So what I'm gonna do is obviously gonna stick this guy in the center, and then try and spread these golden pothos around to go around it, so that way we can you know, pin the vines up, and then train this guy to obviously grow up. So I think what I want to do is just put a bit more soil in here so this guy can be held up. Okay. So here is our golden pothos. I think what I want to do, so because I want this guy to trail up, I need to have some of the trails facing the pole instead of like facing out. So I'm going to see if I can do it this way. Yeah, see if I can do it this way. Okay. Start here and then see what we can do. Okay. And then what I want to do now is, you know what, I'm going to spread these guys a bit more. So now that I got this guy in the right placing, I'm gonna add a bit more soil at the top so that way it can, you know, stay still, and then we'll pin this guy up a bit. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Now that I got that guy there, so now what we want to do is I'm going to take a vine, and I'm just gonna pin this guy to the moss pole. So typically you just want something to obviously, you know, pin them together. I'm gonna wrap it around, and then those nodes, those aerial roots should start to naturally just grab onto them, but I'm just gonna hold this guy right there. So I'm gonna use this pin that came with, not this one specifically, but the other one I'll provide. I got two different type of moss pole. So stay right there. Okay. No, I'm gonna do it at the top, so that way this guy stays right there. There we go. Okay. And then we'll do this vine. So that's that. Do this guy as well right there. Wow, I am already loving this. Man, I've seen these guys like at nurseries that they climb up, and I've seen them in the wild climb up, and they're beautiful when they climb up because the leaves get so huge. So we're gonna do this vine as well. I'm gonna add a bit more soil here because it's a bit, there's a bit of Alrighty guys, ta-da! Look at this guy. Man, I'm excited for this because I've never had any of my pothos climb up before, and this is going to be the first one, so I'm really excited about this guy. But alright guys, so there you have it. That is pretty much my repotting of my pothos. I was going to do the marble queen as well, but I realized that I recently watered that the other day, so the soil is still wet, and I don't want to try and remove it from the roots because it's just going to damage the roots. But my intention for that plant was actually to keep it in the 6-inch container, but just refresh the soil and trim the threaded roots slightly, so that way it continues to at least grow healthier but maintain its size. You know, that's one way you can actually maintain the size of your plant, so that way it doesn't grow out of control if you are you know, if you're just running out of room and don't want your plant to grow any bigger. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this little repotting video. Other than that, enjoy your week, and we'll see you guys soon. Peace.